Imagine a normal morning. You open your window, but instead of sunlight, the sky above the city is dripping with thick black rain, mixed with oil residue, toxic smoke, and the ash of war. This is not a post-apocalyptic movie. It is what people in Tehran are seeing outside their windows right now. Welcome back to New Era, a place where we don't just report the news. We analyze deeply so you can understand the why behind major global events. Today, we explore a complex geopolitical development unfolding in 2026. On March 8th, Iran's president unexpectedly issued an apology to Gulf countries over earlier attacks. However, shortly afterward, missiles and drones continued operating across the Middle East. The United States and Israel then launched a new wave of strikes targeting key Iranian economic infrastructure, including oil storage facilities. The result, Tehran is now experiencing what observers are calling black rain. This raises a crucial question. Does Iran's president truly control the situation, or are other forces directing events behind the scenes? And more importantly, what does this mean for Iranian civilians, and for the potential expansion of the conflict through Iran's network of proxy forces across the region? In today's video, we will break down the entire picture step by step, but before we continue, I want to hear your perspective right now. What do you think is more dangerous? The airstrikes targeting Iran's oil infrastructure, or the possibility that Iran's proxy forces could begin entering the conflict across multiple fronts? Write your thoughts in the comments below. Now, let's begin. On March 8th, 2026, not long ago, Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian appeared on national television and issued an unprecedented public apology. He stated clearly, "I apologize to neighboring countries that have been attacked by Iran. We have no intention of attacking our neighbors. As I have said many times, they are our brothers. From this moment forward, we will suspend attacks against Gulf countries, unless their territory is used as a launching platform for attacks by the United States and Israel." However, Iran's statements about reducing tensions were quickly overshadowed by ongoing military actions. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC, continued launching UAVs and missiles towards several Gulf states, including Kuwait, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates. In Kuwait, reports indicated that a fuel depot and a government building caught fire after being struck. In Bahrain, debris from an intercepted missile fell onto the campus of a university, injuring 3 people and damaging multiple buildings. Meanwhile, in the UAE and Saudi Arabia, air defense systems were forced to operate almost continuously to intercept incoming aerial threats. Analysis from Al Jazeera suggests that these actions may represent a serious strategic miscalculation by Iran, further worsening its already fragile relations with Gulf nations. At the same time, following the death of Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei, Iran appears to be entering a significant internal power crisis. President Pezeshkian, representing the reformist faction, may have issued the apology in an attempt to open a diplomatic pathway out of the escalating confrontation. However, the continued attacks by hardline factions reveal deep divisions within Iran's political structure. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC, appears to hold a decisive role in military operations. In other words, the president may deliver statements on national television, but the actual decisions on the battlefield may be coming from another center of power entirely. So the question now becomes clear. Who is truly controlling Iran's military decisions at this moment? The civilian government or the IRGC? Write your thoughts in the comments below. If that is true, then what the world is witnessing is not merely a sequence of military events. It may also be a sign that the chain of power inside Iran is being stretched to its limits, perhaps even close to breaking within the very core of the country's leadership system. The center of this crisis, Tehran, now appears to be shaken by a tragedy that could leave a lasting mark on history. According to reports from CNN and The Guardian, on March 7th to 8th, 2026, Israeli air forces, with support from the United States, carried out airstrikes on major energy facilities in Tehran. The targets reportedly included the Tunguyan oil refinery and major oil depots in Shahran, Karaj, and Shahareh. These strikes triggered severe environmental contamination, leaving the skies above Tehran covered with smoke, dust, and what observers describe as black rain mixed with oil residue. CNN documented the disturbing phenomenon, Black rain, that's described as rainfall thickened with petroleum residue, toxic hydrocarbons, and chemicals from burning oil facilities, began falling across large parts of the city. White cars turned dark and stained. Roofs and streets became coated with a sticky layer of oil. The air filled with a heavy, burning smell of smoke and toxins. More than 10 million residents of Tehran are now facing severely polluted air, breathing difficulties, and shortages of masks and asthma medication, while prices for basic supplies continue to rise. One resident told international reporters, "The air feels like it's burning from the inside. Everything is covered in oil, and we have no choice but to endure it." Another haunting statement came from an Iranian woman named Mehnaz, quoted in the report. She said, "The sky is completely dark, just like our future. There isn't a single bird left in the sky. People say when the birds abandon you, that's when you are truly alone." Her words capture the deep sense of helplessness among ordinary civilians. War is not only about casualty numbers reported in headlines, it also steals the blue sky. It takes away the clean air people need to breathe, and it can strip an entire generation of hope. In Tehran today, black rain is not just a weather phenomenon. Whoa! It has become a symbol of the human suffering unfolding day after day. Israel and the United States have shifted their focus toward major oil storage and refining facilities, including Sharan and Tonguyan, signaling a new phase in the conflict. Analysts from Morgan Stanley and the Institute for the Study of War, ISW, believe this strategy is designed to weaken Iran's economy by targeting the country's oil revenue, potentially triggering internal instability, and even the possibility of political change within the regime. The destruction of these facilities could push Iran into a severe energy shortage, disrupting electricity supplies, paralyzing large parts of the economy, and simultaneously increasing risks for global oil transportation. This is especially critical in the Strait of Hormuz, a strategic choke point through which roughly 20% of the world's oil supply passes. Shipping traffic in the region has reportedly fallen by 80 to 90%. Many insurance companies have withdrawn war risk coverage as Iran deploys drones and missile attacks targeting maritime routes. The international community now remains on high alert, waiting for the next developments. Morgan Stanley has issued a clear warning. If the conflict continues, and the Strait of Hormuz becomes blocked even temporarily, Asia could suffer the most severe economic consequences. Countries such as China, India, Japan, and South Korea depend heavily on oil imports from the Gulf region. Under such conditions, oil prices could surge to $80 to $90 per barrel, or even higher. This would create a major supply shock, drive inflation sharply upward, and reduce regional GDP by approximately 0.2 to 0.3% for every $10 increase in oil prices. We are now watching the global economy and being turned into a chessboard in a deadly high-stakes gamble. Who can endure longer, Iran collapsing under pressure, or the world trying to survive runaway energy prices? What do you think would happen if the Strait of Hormuz were actually blocked for several weeks? How would oil prices change? And what would happen to the global economy under the combined pressure of military airstrikes and a crippling economic assault? Iran's ballistic missile arsenal has reportedly declined sharply. According to estimates from the IDF and the Institute for the Study of War, ISW, only around 100 to 200 launchers remain operational, a drop of 60 to 75% compared with the period before the war. Iran no longer appears capable of sustaining large-scale attack waves like those seen in early March. So what is Tehran's next strategy? That may be the activation of Plan B, using proxy forces such as Hezbollah, Hamas, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, and Shiite militias in Iraq to widen the battlefield and inflict damage indirectly. Reports from ISW and other credible sources indicate that Iran-backed militias in Iraq have stepped up their activity, including Katyusha rocket and drone attacks targeting the US Embassy in Baghdad. This marked the first such attack since 2023, even though it was intercepted by US air defense systems. Along the Israeli border, Hezbollah has also carried out repeated attacks against the IDF and civilian areas. During the March 6th to 7th weekend alone, they reportedly launched as many as 89 attacks, causing casualties and forcing Israel to maintain a high state of defensive alert. This situation is increasing the risk of a broader Middle East war, as proxy forces are now being activated across multiple fronts. Peace appears to be growing more distant, and while violence continues to threaten the future and the lives of millions across the region. So in your view, what solution could actually cool down the Middle East at this moment? Can the United Nations or the major world powers still intervene in time before events spiral beyond control? Share your perspective and analysis in the comments below. I'd really like to discuss this with all of you. If this analysis helped you understand the situation more clearly, give it a like and share it with your friends. Don't let misinformation shape the narrative. Subscribe and turn on notifications to stay updated hour by hour on this conflict, because the situation is changing by the minute. Thank you for staying with New Era, as we will continue to bring you the latest strategic developments shaping this unfolding crisis.